Okay, hi, this is Ethan Leeds from Empower the Body to Fight Cancer Naturally, and I'd like to introduce to you today my friend and guest, Dr. McKee. She's been a lifelong advocate for health. Although she's a medically trained doctor, she's done a lot in natural health. She's been involved in Ironman competitions. She's been a health coach, etc., etc. And one of the things that I'd like to talk to her about is that as part of her journey and her quest for optimal health and peak performance in what she did, she came across a supplement that was recommended to her by a specialist doctor in anti-aging, and she began to use that and has seen great results. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So hi Sean.
Hi. Hi, Ethan.
Hi. I'd like you to begin, Sean, just telling us a little bit about what supplements you personally take right now at this moment.
Well, great. Actually, I used to take a whole lot of supplements, handfuls, in fact. I'd read everything that I could about what would be good and what could be good, and used to take, basically anything that I read about in the natural news or natural supplement world. But currently, I simply just take every day. I take Sol, I take magnesium, sizzling minerals, I take vitamin D3, K2 in a liquid form. I take a probiotic, and I take Protandim.
Okay. Now, one of the things that I know you and I have discussed before is the role of oxidative stress in health. Can you tell us a little bit about the connection between oxidative stress and health issues and fitness issues?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, oxidative stress, in a nutshell, is basically why we age.
Okay.
As we get older, there's increasing oxidative stress. It's why we mutate. It's why we malfunction. It's why we age. It's why we disease. In fact, oxidative stress is linked to over 250 diseases and more every day. Even infectious diseases, obviously they're caused by virus or a bacteria, but they cause increased oxidative stress, which then causes this cascade. And exercise, you think, athletes should have less oxidative stress. They're very fit, but truthfully, exercise causes more oxidative stress because it's caused by breathing oxygen. Breathe more oxygen, you get more free radicals.
Okay, so we breathe more oxygen, we get more oxidative stress.
Yes.
Okay, so that's interesting. So what do we do then? What is the natural method for our bodies to deal with all of this oxidative stress? How are we supposed to fight it?
Well, interestingly, the body has a very, very fabulous way to kind of put out the fire. And it makes these good guys, these antioxidant enzymes, anti-inflammatory proteins and enzymes. And when we're young, when we're under age 20, when we're children, we are producing an overabundance of these survival genes, these good guys that put out the fire. We eat and we breathe and we are exposed to toxins, and our bodies just naturally deal with them. We make a lot of glutathione, superoxide dismutase, catalase, housekeeping proteins, and all this is our body's natural way of putting out these fires and fighting this oxidative stress.
Hold on. Can I stop you there a minute? Because you're just mentioning that our body makes all this stuff. Most of us are under the impression that we get our antioxidants from like superfoods and so on. But you're saying that actually your body makes antioxidants. So that's not something most people, I think, are aware of. So could you just expand on the difference between an antioxidant that we eat and an antioxidant? I think most people have heard of glutathione, and in fact you can get supplements of glutathione, right?
Right.
So that's a supplement that you eat, but you're saying that no, we can make this stuff, right?
In fact, it's so much better. Not only does the glutathione we consume in a pill form get broken down into its component amino acids, and it's no better than having eaten a steak or a burger, although it's slightly less inflammatory than red meat, but your body still has to assemble these amino acids into the glutathione, and that's a rate-limiting step in the body. And you cannot upregulate that just by consuming more raw materials. If you're deficient in the raw materials and you consume them, yes, you'll be able to make more, but there's a limit. And when you activate your body's natural pathway, and that pathway is called NRF2, and NRF2 is a bunch of long words, abbreviated NRF2.
Okay.
When you activate that pathway is very active when you're young. It will upregulate, increase the production of glutathione from the raw materials that are already there. Things like moderate exercise do induce this pathway. Broccoli consumption does induce this pathway. But again, with exercise, you are breathing more oxygen, and that's partly why it's inducing this pathway, because it's a defense mechanism. And if you do it in moderation, your defense mechanism will overcompensate. So you'll actually be healthier for the exercise, even though you've just increased your oxidative stress. The problem is most people think if a little is good, a lot is better. And people who do Ironman triathlons and ultramarathons like myself actually end up doing more damage because of the oxidative stress. It overwhelms our defenses. In fact, if you look at elite Ironman triathletes, elite ultramarathoners, Olympic marathoners, they all have a very keen resemblance to a cancer patient undergoing chemotherapy. And there's a reason. They have tremendous oxidative stress.
Okay. Right, that is true actually when you think about it. So I understand there's a difference between the potency of these antioxidants that you eat and the ones that you actually manufacture in your body. Do you want to explain a little bit about the difference in potency between the two types?
Tremendous, manifold, like logarithmic. Okay, you take an antioxidant, green superfood, Sol, which is wonderful, magnesium, all these selenium antioxidants. When you consume them by mouth, that's called an exogenous antioxidant.
Okay. You
eat it, and it puts out the fire in a 1-to-1 ratio. One antioxidant molecule neutralizes one free radical, and then you pee it out. And in fact, if you take vitamin antioxidants, synthetic fractionated vitamins, you will notice that your urine is very colorful. Okay, it's expensive urine. You're peeing it out. You can't take enough to put out the fire. In fact, when you take a direct antioxidant, once it puts out the fire, the one antioxidant molecule neutralizes the one free radical. Guess what happens? It's donated that electron. And now the antioxidant molecule is running around with an unpaired electron. What does that make it? A pro-oxidant.
A free radical.
There's studies that say taking antioxidants actually in excess makes pro-oxidant things occur. So your body's own antioxidant enzymes neutralize 1 million free radicals a second. They're an enzyme. They're a catalyst. They're not used up in the
Whoa. Back up. Let's just. So you're saying that an antioxidant that you eat is one-on-one. One molecule takes out one free radical, and they're both now extinguished.
Correct.
But what you're saying is that the antioxidant that your body manufactures after you flick this nerve 2 switch and create more antioxidants, that's 1 on 1 million per second?
Second after second, minute after minute, hour after hour, day after day, until it's replaced by another one that's made 12 days later. So there's no comparison.
No, that's just unbelievably huge difference. I see where the logarithms come into it there then. Okay, so that brings us to the point of you were recommended 4 years ago a supplement by this anti-aging doctor, which he said was able to reduce oxidative stress by 40% on average, and this is in a healthy person. I believe it's greater in an unhealthy person, but anyway,
yes.
in a healthy person, on average, it is reducing oxidative stress by 40%. And you've begun using that particular supplement yourself. I've got to admit, I've been using it myself for about 6 months, not the 4 years that you have. But how does, and it's called Protandim, right? How does Protandim fit into this picture? What exactly does Protandim do, and why was the doctor recommending it to you? Why do you take it?
Well, what actually she said to me, there's one supplement that is clinically proven to reduce oxidative stress by an average of 40% in 30 days in everyone who takes it. And she said, and my husband and I both take it, and we invested in the company. And, that impressed me because her husband's an elite Ironman triathlete. I finished in 14 hours. He finishes in like 8 or 9 hours. And furthermore, he's a PhD in exercise physiology and has a sports medicine clinic. So I was just so impressed. Then I started looking at the research, and the research, when I began looking into it, there were 9 studies on PubMed, and today there's 22. What they found is that this synergistic combination of 5 herbs that have been used in human health for centuries actually turns on this NRF2 pathway 18 times more than the sum of the individual herbs themselves. So you can't just take herbs individually and expect it to do what Protandim does. They will do wonderful things for your health. Green tea is a wonderful antioxidant. Milk thistle is a great liver detoxifier. Turmeric is a wonderful anti-inflammatory, etc. Ashwagandha is great for adrenal support. Bacopa is great for increasing memory, cognition. But in this combination that they frankly stumbled upon in testing different ratios, and that's why it has so many patents on it, synergistically upregulates these survival genes 18-fold more. And that's why there's so much research on this one patented brand name product that's unheard of, that medical schools and universities are studying, a branded product, not the ingredients. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of studies on the ingredients, but there's 22 on the brand name product, paid for by universities and medical schools because they see
the universities are paying for the studies themselves.
With their precious research dollars. They're getting grants from the NIH, the American Heart Association, a Skin Cancer Foundation, I can't remember which exact one, but the Muscular Dystrophy Association. There's just tremendous interest in this. And it all stemmed because back in 2005, ABC Primetime actually investigated the company because their chief medical officer did not believe the claims that the company was stating it reduced oxidative stress. They're like, that's preposterous. You can't claim that. And so they sent Emmy award-winning journalist John Quinones out to debunk it, to disprove it, to send the CEO out the back door with his briefcase over his head. And he came back in 12 days. He didn't come back in 30 days. They said reduction of 40% on average in 30 days. So he pops in 12 days and says, test my blood. And lo and behold, his oxidative stress came down 45%.
Wow.
And the researchers that were sitting at home on their couch that night were like, oh my goodness, if that's half true, we need to study it on X, Y, and Z, and they did. And those studies are coming out every few months.
Wow. That in 13 days, 45% reduction in oxidative stress. Wow,
yes.
that is unbelievable. And is it kind of cumulative? If you continue taking it over a period, do the benefits increase, or
Yes, in fact, the very first human clinical, I believe John Quinones was a person that participated in that trial. They found that at 90 or 120 days, the oxidative stress reduction was more like 70%. And so the longer you take it, the better it is. Now, it doesn't eliminate oxidative stress. There's some needed for healing, and fighting infections and that kind of thing, because that's what these macrophages do. They use these free radicals to kill bacteria, but put it in balance, like it was when we were a child, and that's what Protandim achieves. And older people have more oxidative stress. People dealing with chronic conditions have more oxidative stress. And so I always say for people, to take it as long, forever. I'm going to take it forever, but to be able to determine what it's going to do for your health, you want to give it at least a month for every decade that you've been, oxidizing.
Okay, that's one way of putting it. It's quite a lot of months I need to take it.
Yeah, forever.
Okay, so from what you just said, people who are sick, chronically sick especially, they've got more oxidation going on, right? So they would expect to see a larger reduction in their oxidative stress. The more oxidation they've got, the more effect it's going to have on them. So a young, healthy, fit person would see less effect than someone who...
Absolutely. You can't fix what's not broken. I mean, if they're perfectly balanced, in their oxidation, it's just going to keep them there as they continue to age.
Right.
You may find that it helps, say a 20-year-old athlete, maybe finds that it helps in their recovery. So when they go overboard and they actually stress their body beyond that beneficial level and they tip the scales in the oxidation direction, that having this survival gene activation, so to say, the glutathione upregulation, the SOD catalase, helps them recover,
right,
and go back and do it hard again. So hopefully that would have a positive impact on their performance.
Okay, so you mentioned quite a few different studies, and the one that you spoke about most is this study that shows that the reduction in oxidative stress of 40% on average, which is an amazing thing, and that's something that the FDA agree with, right? The FDA would say, yes, that is true.
In fact, they did. They actually didn't want to agree with it. They challenged it. And Dr. McCord, who conducted the initial research, and Dr. McCord is considered the father of free radical biology. He is actually the co-discoverer with Urban Friedrich of the enzyme SOD. back in 1969 at Duke University. So he politely explained to the FDA officials, look, this study that we did, has a p-value of 0.0001. A p-value of 0.05 is proven. That means that's considered,
wow,
a valid study. It's proven. It means 95% chance that the results were because the intervention worked, and a 5% chance it was a fluke. Well, 0.0001 means that if technically if you repeated it in 10,000 people, 9,999 would have the same result. So it works. It's proven. So the FDA allows the statement that Protandim reduces oxidative stress in humans by an average of 40% in 30 days.
Wow, that is just amazing. And is Protandim one of these things that works on some people and not on other people, or does it work like on most people or everybody? How does that work out?
Well, it works on everyone. The average reduction was that it was an average in that study. So the 79-year-old had a dramatic decrease in his oxidative stress, and the 20-year-old not so much.
Right.
So oxidative stress is not something that you feel. You don't feel your cholesterol, you don't feel your sodium level, you don't feel your oxidative stress level unless it's causing something, and then you feel the end result.
Right.
So when your oxidative stress comes down in 30 days, you may not feel it. You may not, but it depends what it's doing. So what happens then is that your body begins to be able to deal with whatever area of it is affected by oxidative stress. And once that's taken out of the equation, this may get better, that may get better. For example, sleep, energy levels, focus, mental fog, aches, pains, and you may find you're reaching for pain relievers less often or whatever. But this can happen in, someone in 2 weeks, 4 months, 6 months. Things change. When you are a healthy, balanced person making as much of these good guys as you did when you were a child, a year or two later, you're going to realize, gosh, I'm 2 years older and I no longer feel like an old person. I feel like a young person, and that's really cool.
So it's kind of a long-term thing, really, but you might see. And by the way, I know this doesn't just work on humans, right? This works on animals as well.
The things that I've seen and heard in animals have just warmed my heart. I mean, I'm an animal lover, so I've seen dogs that can barely move. They're actually, you can see a dog kind of interacting with another dog, and you can kind of play out the dialogue in your mind what the dog's saying. And so here's a big yellow lab, very stiff, very sore, gimping along, and this little chihuahua running around going, play with me, and the yellow lab, you can look at her and she's going, look, Stella, I can't. And then the Stella's like, no, you can. And so the dog basically tries to do this little pitiful little like a play move, and that's all she's got. And she literally turns around and walks away, limps away, and lays down. Well, then you see the dog a few weeks later, same dog, dealing with Stella, running around on a wooden floor, spinning around, kind of slipping. I'm worried the dog's going to hurt herself because the floor's slick, but you can tell her tail's wagging, she's moving. There's a big train going by, sorry. Then a few weeks later, you see the same dog in the same yard with Stella running around. Now, granted, she's not running like, a perfectly healthy dog. She's running with some stiffness and some give, but she's running and she's feeling good. And that makes you really happy.
Over what period of time did that, and you didn't?
I believe that was the first, the wooden floor was about 12 days, 14 days, and then the other one was maybe 30 days. And then there was a follow-up where the dogs jump in the back of a pickup truck. Okay, this dog had several years of really good quality life after that time period where she couldn't even move. Now, she could move, but very stiffly. Then I've seen a horse that hadn't trotted for 7 years, bloated because hardly moved at all, moved super slowly. And then after just a few days on Protandim, is whinnying and frisky looking. And when they let her out, normally she would just kind of walk slowly. She started to run, almost fell down because her legs are so stiff because she hadn't run. But she did. She ran. She didn't fall down. Her tail was in the air. She felt great. So I love the fact that animals don't know what you're giving them is supposed to make them feel better, and they don't really have a placebo effect. You can just see, and I know that they don't talk, but you can see they feel better. It's quite obvious.
Wow. And that would be dogs, cats, horses,
dogs, cats,
whatever.
Horses.
They can all.
I've seen cats dragging their legs behind them, start to use their hind legs. Dogs, the same thing. it's amazing, and I love that. I've heard of many people that didn't even think about taking it for themselves, and then there's some veterinarian or friend suggested that they give it to their suffering animal. They see what happened, and then they're like, well, do they make this for humans too?
Wow. Okay.
It's actually for humans, but
So oxidative stress then is behind hundreds and hundreds of diseases. Another thing that underlies a lot of diseases that a lot of people are aware of is inflammation, if I can get the word out. So inflammation is also underlying, and in fact I was just recently watching a doctor speaking about the role of inflammation in depression, which isn't something you'd necessarily relate to inflammation. So inflammation also is behind many, many diseases, again hundreds and hundreds of diseases. Is there a link between oxidation and inflammation?
100%. Oxidative stress is what causes inflammation when it gets out of hand. So, in fact, inflammation wouldn't exist if oxidative stress were not there. So there's a direct correlation between oxidative stress and inflammation.
Wow. Okay. So therefore, if you're reducing your oxidation, you're also reducing your inflammation by default. Then, if that
correct. And there are many lab tests. One is called a C-reactive protein. High sensitivity reactive protein is a marker of generalized inflammation in the body, and people can have that drawn, as a baseline for their health, and then take it for a year or so and have it drawn again. You should, generally speaking, if you're aging, you should generally have more inflammation because you're exposed to more and more environmental toxins, and that's another thing. We're exposed to so many toxins in this world between the GMOs and the glyphosates and the, fluoride and chlorine in our water and, chemicals in our cleaning products, benzene, fumes, radiation, etc. Yeah. So we're being assaulted. And, if we lived in the same world we lived in 100 years ago, maybe protecting your body wouldn't be quite as paramount as it is today.
Right, but right now we're under such an assault. We really need all the tools that we can, and and there's nothing else that exists that does what Protandim does. Right, Protandim is at this point in time, as far as we know, the only thing that can do some of these things we've just been talking about.
Right. Well, there are the natural gold standard for a NRF2 activator is something called sulforaphane. That's the natural compound found in broccoli and cauliflower. That's why you should eat your broccoli. But
okay.
Protandim they've tested. In fact, drug companies test their NRF2 activating drugs against sulforaphane. That's the quote unquote gold standard. Well, we've seen lots of comparisons between Protandim and sulforaphane done not only by the company that makes Protandim, but also by drug companies. And so Protandim is actually about 7 times more effective at increasing the survival gene activation, 7 times more potent as a NRF2 activator than sulforaphane. So no, there's nothing as potent as Protandim on the planet to date.
So it's 7 times more powerful than what has been up till now the gold standard.
Correct.
Wow. Okay, fantastic. Okay, well, just before we kind of close, because that's been some fantastic information and I hope that really helps people, but I just want to quickly switch subject because you mentioned right at the beginning a few other supplements. I'm very familiar and I've talked a lot about Sol and transfer factor and sizzling minerals and so on, but you mentioned probiotics. Now, I'm a big fan of helping to anyone who's sick in particular to help deal with their gut issues, because people who are sick, they pretty much 100% of the time their digestion is not working optimally, and I try and do that primarily with foods, and I particularly like to recommend fermented foods like kefir and sauerkraut and so on. But in my experience, because you can't buy these foods because the shop versions are useless because they kill them with pasteurization and so on, you have to make them, and in all fairness, they don't necessarily taste the best. They're not because our diets have become, well, let's say they're not great, but our taste buds have changed. We like sweet stuff and we don't like fermented foods that much. I love kefir in theory. I hate the taste of it. That's just the truth, and I think that's the truth for a lot of people. And so a combination of the hassle in making the foods and the fact that we don't actually like them, most people slack, should we say, in that area. And so if they are slacking, then probiotics would be an answer, a supplement. But a lot of probiotics don't seem to really work. So you mentioned that you're taking one. So is your probiotic any different to all the ones that don't really work, or are you? Tell me a little bit about that just
That's a
before we
great
go.
question. In fact, I've taken probiotics for several years now because I was in this basically seeking optimal health. I was seeking a way to be as healthy as I could, and I did mention I was taking handfuls of pills,
Right.
among them probiotics, and I never knew that they were working. I never felt any or experienced any change in digestion or bloating or anything. But the company that makes Protandim actually has hit a home run with introducing this ProBio product, because it is in something called a patented delivery system called BioTract. It is spherical and rough, and the reason it's like that is because it is coated with a delivery vehicle that gets it through the stomach. So you can take refrigerated probiotics all day. You can take freeze-dried probiotics all day. As soon as the capsule opens up in the stomach acid, the probiotics are 93% killed in the hydrochloric acid of the stomach. The BioTract technology in the company, LifeVantage is the company that makes Protandim and ProBio, gets it through the stomach. It's not released until it's in the intestine, small and large, where it's used, where it's needed. That's why there's so many fewer billion colony-forming units. The ProBio has 6 billion colony-forming units versus what I was taking, which had 82 billion. Well, there's a reason. Wow. Because...
But the 82 billion did nothing.
Right, the 93% were killed. And not only does ProBio have these bacteria that get where they're needed, it also has something called Wellmune in it, which is very, very immunosupportive, beta-glucans, and it improves the immune system. So things that I've seen since taking ProBio, tremendous reduction in belly bloat. My stomach is a lot flatter, and it wasn't a huge problem, but it was an issue. And so I have a flat stomach, and there's something called the Bristol stool scale from 1 to 6.
Oh,
and
yeah, I know a bit about that. Yep.
it shows in a little pictograph. Loose stools indicate inflammation, and little rabbit balls, indicate constipation. And then there's the medium, intermediate zones, and people know that this is working. I'll just leave it at that. You can tell where you graduate to on the Bristol stool scale. You're in a happy place, and that's a good thing. And this is a probiotic that is working. I could tell it in a period of a month or two. Absolutely will not stop taking it.
Yes, I always thought if a probiotic needs to be refrigerated, then the moment it gets into the heat of your body, I mean, why does it need to be refrigerated? Because it's going to die, right? If it's not kept at that temperature. So it's got to operate at a temperature that we know it's going to die at, just to get the acid, because that's also going to kill it.
Right.
So, yeah, I always thought that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. A probiotic so sensitive, you need to keep it in the fridge. And then, so... Okay, Sean, it's been really great talking with you. There's lots and lots of great information. I hope that it helps people to understand a little bit more about oxidation and what can be done about it, and hopefully they'll be inspired to do a bit more research. There's lots of information in PubMed, as you already mentioned.
Really quick before we go, I would love to share the studies that.
Okay, right, yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, here we go. I actually took the liberty of going to PubMed, and you can see here it's U.S. National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health, PubMed, typed in the word Protandim. There are 22, and I'll just read a few of the titles. I'm doing this because I want to emphasize how important reducing oxidative stress is in the body. And, yes, a lot of these studies are Petri dish studies, tissue studies, and animal studies, but it just gives you an idea of what reducing oxidative stress can mean for cellular health. And the first study that appears is Protandim protects oligodendrocytes against an oxidative insult. You can look at it. It's a free study because it was publicly funded in part. Oligodendrocytes are the cells that make myelin. The effect of myelin is the protective sheath on the
so that would be like involved with something like MS then, for example, would it?
The myelin is attacked in MS.
Yeah. So Protandim therefore would be make a lot of sense to take that if you had MS.
I think everyone should take Protandim to lower their oxidative stress. Absolutely.
Right.
The effect of Protandim supplementation on athletic performance and oxidative blood markers in runners. This study showed that athletes over age 35 had a double improvement in their SOD, superoxide dismutate, over and above the benefit that comes with exercise itself.
Okay, wow.
Protandim in protection against osteoarthritis. This is the title of that study. Longer lifespan in male mice treated with a nerve 2 inducer Protandim.
Okay, hold on. Let me pause you there. Longer lifespan. So that study, I know a little bit about that study, but correct me if I'm wrong, but that study proves that Protandim can actually extend life by, I believe, 7%, right?
Yeah, in fact, this study was done by the National Institutes of Health, National Institute on Aging, and they've been studying compounds since 1999, and they've done over 30. They found 6 that extend life. They're all drugs, so they have side effects from bleeding, bruising, liver enzyme elevation, testicular degeneration, cataracts, side effects. And then they've never found a supplement that extended life. They've tested resveratrol, which is the compound in red wine. They've tested green tea, green tea, turmeric, which is an anti-inflammatory, curcumin and curry, the medium chain triglycerides, and fish oil. And none of those have extended life in this very, very rigorous 3-location triplicate study. They do it at San Antonio, Michigan, and Miami. Very, very rigorous science. They've never found anything that was not a drug that increased lifespan, except in June they just published the latest cohort, which included Protandim, and found, even though they actually gave the wrong dose initially, they gave half strength from age 10 months to 17 months, and then they finally realized they were giving too low of a dose. They didn't have any induction, so they increased the dose to the correlate human dose, and still ended up with a 7% increase in lifespan.
Wow, so it might even be higher than 7% then. Amazing.
Might be if they repeat it with a full dose from the beginning. Who knows? Nerve 2 activation, a potential strategy for the prevention of acute mountain sickness. That study was funded by DARPA, which is the Defense Agency's research, something or other, military. Cardiovascular disease, protects cardiomyocytes, that's heart cells, blah, blah, blah. So you can look for yourself. Just go to National Institutes of Health, PubMed, pubmed.gov, which is pub for public, med for medical, gov for your tax dollars paying for it. Type in the word Protandim and you'll see the study. So I do have to go, but I wanted to make sure we touched on the studies available on PubMed. But it's been really fun.
That is amazing, Sean. Thank you so much. So all I've got to say now is bye-bye, and I hope that everybody that watches this enjoys it. Cheers.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot, Ethan. Bye-bye.